Hey guys, what's up? This is Brian with another Optimal Living 101 video. This one's on Stephen Covey's 4-quadrant model of time management. And my question for you is, where are you in Covey's 4 quadrants? We're going to get to those 4 quadrants in a moment. But first, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, amazing guy. Habit number 1, be proactive. Not reactive, become response-able, able to choose your response to any given situation. Very good habit. Number 2, begin with the end in mind. Once you take more control of your mind, you ask yourself, well, what do I want? What's my ideal outcome? Everything is created twice, he says, once in your imagination, then in reality. Then, when you've gotten clarity on what you want in your life, you've set effective goals, you exercise, hopefully, habit number 3, to put first things first. Covey wrote a whole book on this as well, in addition to the 7 habits, called First Things First. We're going to talk about that today. Now, Goethe tells us things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. We've got to pay attention to what our priorities are. Then we've got to remember to put first things first. Now, Stephen Covey, brilliant guy, came up with a handy-dandy 4-quadrant model. 4 quadrants, mapped over whether it's urgent or not urgent, and whether it's important or not important. So, is the stuff we're doing urgent, or is it not urgent, important or not important? Quadrant number 1, it's urgent and it's important. These are basically fire drills, deadline after deadline. It's urgent and it's important. It's got to get done. Now, the second quadrant, we're going to talk about in a second, is not urgent but important. Very, very important to spend time here. The third quadrant is urgent and not important. It's urgent, not important. These are interruptions that happen throughout our days, right? Maybe it's email that we're getting or someone stepping into our office. If we exclusively focus in quadrant 1, urgent and important, we're in fire drill mode, deadlines, we're going to have burnout. Now, if we're in quadrant 3, we're constantly getting interrupted, constantly distracting ourselves with urgent, not that important emails, for example. We're in short-term focus. Not very fun. Now, quadrant number 4 is not urgent and not important. Not urgent, not important, not a good place to play. That is called time-wasting activity. That leads to the dreaded eek sauce, and you're going to get fired, and you're probably depressed if you're spending a lot of time in quadrant 4. This stuff isn't urgent, it's not important. For me, it's, oops, just checked ESPN for the 1,000th time today. Not quite that many, but you get the idea. Or Google News, or email, or whatever, right? Time wasters. Now, what we want to do is we want to identify when we spend time here, and we want to see if we can shift it to quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is where it's at. Not urgent, like the fire drill, but it is important. Not urgent, but important. What's that like? Well, that's like meditation and exercise and time with your family and walking and reading, and insert your favorite top 10 or 25 quadrant 2 activities here. That, when we spend enough time in quadrant 2, we tend to get the right balance. We've restored ourselves, we're coming from a healthy place, and we're experiencing more levels of happiness. Really powerful stuff. Stephen Covey's 7th habit is sharpening the saw. And he talks about this guy who's in a forest sawing down a tree. Right? He's sawing and he's sawing and he's sawing and he's sawing and he's sawing. And this other guy's watching him and he's like, hey, I think you might want to sharpen that saw. And the guy looks at him and says, I'm way too busy to take the time to sharpen the saw. Now, obviously, he was using a dull blade, and it wasn't very effective. If we're spending all of our time here, we tend to get burned out, and then we distract ourselves here in time-wasting activities. And we eat poorly, the sugar and the salt and all those things become more appealing. So what we want to do is invest more energy into quadrant number 2. That's sharpening the saw and building a chainsaw. And you do that through the very simple habits that I call fundamentals that we talk about all the time, where you're exercising, you're meditating, you're eating well, you're spending time with your family, you're taking care of yourself, you're nourishing yourself. Now, what I recommend you do and what I do is I identify these time-wasting quadrant 4 activities. Make a list. What are your top few things? I mentioned mine, checking the news again, checking email all the time, or ESPN or whatever. Identify these and notice when you either want to go into this or you are in it, and see if you can step back and then shift to a quadrant 2 activity. It's a really fun game. You're wasting time in quadrant 4. Shift into quadrant 2. Make that a habit. Become more aware when you're here and see if you can shift there. That is a quick look at Stephen Covey's handy dandy 4-quadrant model. Where are you in Covey's 4 quadrants? Where do you find yourself spending time? What did you get out of this video that you can apply to your life starting now? I hope you got something meaningful, and look forward to sharing more with you soon. Remember, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. Rock this model, whatever else you use. We're going to talk a lot more about effective action steps. I'm preparing for my action class now that we've set some meaningful goals, and I'll keep on sharing videos like this on taking effective action to help you create awesome success in 2013. More soon. I'll put a link below to the classes and all that good stuff. Have another awesome day. See ya.